Hello everyone and welcome to Early Warning Radar. Today I want to talk to you about a project that I've been tracking for a little while now, and while it's still in the pre-production stages, it's still showing a great deal of promise, and this game is called Ahoy. Ahoy is planned to be a first-person MMO set in the late 18th century West Indies, where players will be able to rove about the seas with their ships and crew, trading, fighting, and exploring the open world. Or not, for you see that while the ships and sailing are certainly at the forefront of the experience, if you want to play the game without ever owning your own ship and only ever hitching a ride or staying a true landsman, you can do just that. The premise is similar to games like Star Citizen or EVE Online, where the map is open and player interaction within a loose or semi-loose framework of factions makes the open world go round. Players will be able to join nation factions and receive the benefits and drawbacks of being a part of that nation. You can join that country's navy if you like combat, or of course join their merchant navy if you like trading and logistics. Alternatively, you can just remain a civilian captain, operate as a privateer, or you can turn to piracy at the very real risk of having all nations and their privateers try to hunt you down. This in particular I'm very excited for, because only those truly dedicated to the pirate lifestyle will survive, let alone thrive. It is fixed to a first-person perspective, which is a huge plus in my opinion. The grounded point of view will really help to immerse you in the experience that Ahoy is trying to provide, rather than relegating it to third-person cameras that often pull you out of the experience, or inevitably get abused for gameplay advantages. Viewing these ships from the decks and even their interiors will showcase the true scale and grandiosity of the ships and ports. At the forefront of this game, perhaps above all other things, is one singular priority that has been deemed critical by the development team at Capstan Games: historical accuracy. Both their website and discussions that I have had with the developers show that authenticity and historical accuracy is at the core of the project's focus. Even their website features flashes of highly humorous 18th century prose that I just love. A proclamation by Capstan Games, Sunday 10th of September 2023. We, taking into our most serious consideration the indispensable duty we have to develop Ahoy at a most ready pace, do therefore humbly request your assistance through a most charitable donation towards the development and delivery of our foremost and chief effort. Published by Special Authority, printed by Capstan at the sign of the printing press in Cornhill, near the Royal Exchange, London. Holy word salad. Ports, ships, firearms, tools and clothing are all being recreated based on real 18th century maps, plans, designs and charts. For example, their first location, Port Royal, Jamaica, is recreated from maps drawn up in the 1780s, which is when the game is set. The work they have done to not only recreate the port proper, but also the smaller details of shops, workshops, taverns and other historically significant buildings of the time like St. Peter's Church, Fort Charles and the Naval Hospital is truly impressive. This is much less Pirates of the Caribbean and much more Master and Commander, with a grounded and realistic approach instead of what I consider to be very fun but ultimately silly depictions of the period. Currently popular Age of Sail IPs like Pirates of the Caribbean and Sea of Thieves offer a fun and comical take on the genre, but Ahoy stands to give it a long overdue breath of fresh air, which in my opinion is very welcome indeed, as it is hardly ever depicted as seriously as it could or maybe should be. Indeed, there will be many popular Age of Sail tropes that are going to be corrected with Ahoy's release, one of the most prevalent ones, for example, being those who handle the ship's wheel, in which men will correctly stand beside the wheel and steer as a group of 2 or 4, rather than the incorrect depiction seen in games and movies of a single person, usually the captain, behind the wheel. The main point of attraction, for me at least, is the ships, and oh, what a wondrous job the folks at Capstan have done. From what we have seen so far, the ships look to be absolutely magnificent, reconstructed accurately from authentic historical ship plans. The team are giving critical attention to every detail, with fully modelled and functional interiors, stowage, rigging and more. There will also be stores of firearms and other weaponry with which to arm you and your crew, including detachments of marines to help defend your ship against a hostile boarding action. One particular detail I've seen and appreciate is the accurate recreation of the ship's steerage, with the rope moving down between the decks to the tiller and pulling it around with an authentically recreated mechanism. Sailing mechanics will also be accurate, with players having to consider the wind and weather to ensure that the ship makes it to their destination at all, let alone in one piece. Sailing into the wind will cause you to go backwards, and holding too much canvas in a storm will break your masts. Sailing manoeuvres will take time to perform, with AI crewmen running about and manning sheets and braces. Everything will need to be considered well in advance, as unlike many other games, your canvas will not just magically fall from the yards at the press of a button. For warships in particular, this will be important, as a ship will take time to clear for action, and failing to bring the ship to a state of readiness in good time may cause you to be caught with your proverbial pants down. Currently, there are 3 ships being worked on to start, with others planned for the future. The first and smallest is Veloce, which is a brig sloop based on plans from HMS Speedy of 1782. Do not let the name fool you, however. Lord Cochrane raised merry hell with this ship in his heyday, so underestimate her at your peril. The second in order and size is the Nemesis, based on the French ship Tapageur in 1779, with the third and largest of the 3 being Phoebus, based on the 6th-rate frigate HMS Pandora, also of 1779. You will have to crew some of these ships with other people, particularly the larger ones. Ahoy is committed to the multiplayer, multi-crew experience, with players taking on officer roles to give orders to AI NPCs that fill the roles of ratings and enlisted crew. The AI crew will be loosely influenced by statistics such as morale, lending an amount of validity to proper crew management and running a tight ship, but the victor in combat will be ultimately decided by the better crews. That said, you can still operate the helm, yards, braces, rigging, shelves, hatches, and other equipment. Ahoy ships promise to be fully interactable and not mere sheds filled with pretty but impractical props. Everything is being considered, including simulated gun crews. This will make the ship feel alive without having to have each ship organise 240 players to be all online at the same time, which would be the actual count of a ship's company of a 6th-rate frigate of the period. For those seeking a single-player experience, this may come as a disappointment, but this is planning to be an MMO. Other people playing is part of the game. You certainly can get some quiet time and go exploring when playing solo, but getting far is going to require cooperation and player interaction. This is also for balance reasons. If one player can control the biggest ship, why would you bother getting 7 people together to crew the same ship and achieve the same result? Doesn't make sense to me. As for the release schedule, currently the screenshots and videos I have provided are pretty much all we have, as the title is in concept and pre-production stages at the moment. The developers are currently working hard on the first stage of their plan, the PRE, or Port Royal Experience, which will allow players to log into the game in Port Royal, Jamaica, and explore and socialise with the other players. Next will come Sailing and Combat, which, as its name might suggest, are trials for the sailing and combat mechanics. This will eventually move over to a playable arena mode, which is a kind of PvP area for more testing, as well as giving players access to ships and combat games while the developers work on completing the world for the MMO proper. We currently have no timescales for any of this, and so, much like a real naval crew, we have to sit here and wait for the action to happen. You can find out more about Ahoy by going over to their website, where a huge FAQ section will likely answer your every question. Make no mistake, it's going to be a long wait, but if the initial work is anything to go by, this game might just be something special. That said, I am apprehensive, as the developers have mentioned that while nothing is set in stone, they are certainly not above altering aspects of the game to appeal to modern sensibilities. In some respects, I fully understand that the depictions of the ship's boys getting mangled by cannon fire might render the game a little on the unmarketable side. I just hope that aside from the obvious no-nos, aspects of history are not altered or revised to appease an audience that doesn't have a genuine interest in the game or genre to begin with. Furthermore, we have no gameplay, only a promise. It's still very early days, and we have nothing practical by which to properly judge this title yet, which, as it stands, is the most damning indictment of all. My final concern surrounds the MMO aspect. Now, don't get me wrong, I want the MMO, but this game, if should it ever shut down, then all of the history, the work that has gone into the game, shuts down with it. So an offline mode for exploration and presentation purposes would be very welcome in my opinion. Ultimately, this is going to be a title that I follow the development of very closely indeed. I'm very excited for the game and I hope for its success, but what do you think? Is this as exciting for you as it is for me? Leave a comment letting me know what you think. I've linked Ahoy's particulars in the description for you to check out if you're interested. As for me, I'm off to rewatch Master and Commander for the 15th time. Thanks for watching.